right, everyone, and welcome back. We can have some very exciting information to share with you. We can go through the current housing market, what transpired, then we may even do a little bit of projection into the future, next 2 to 5 years and beyond, what's going to happen to the housing market, the investment real estate market, the whole 9 yards. And once again, welcome back. I'm Seewing Yee, of course, and my very consistent special guest host is Mr. Richard Advani, who is a mortgage loan advisor from Guaranteed Rate Mortgage. Thank you for coming on board, Richard, again. All right, so let me share my screen and let's get started. Housing market update and our crystal ball. No one have a crystal ball, really. So where we going right now and where we are right now and where are we going? The biggest challenge we're facing, Richard, you and I, as we work with investors from all over the country, our philosophy is buy real estate and not wait to buy real estate. And the reason why is, again, people are so emotional. You and I, we understand human behavior, right? It is what it is. But when we regardless of what's going on in the economy, look at the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 ways where an investor can make money once they consummate a income property in their portfolio. They're getting cash flow appreciation, tax benefits. This is the profit that you can see. You can physically see the below the ocean, the hidden profit, as you will, is below, which you cannot see. You cannot see tax benefits, the leverage associated with the mortgages, and that's what you do, and principal pay down by the tenant over time. And another word that I borrow from this guy, what's his name? Jason Hartman. Okay, yeah, inflation-induced debt destruction. Richard, what is your quick thought on people continue to sit on the side and waiting for a recession to come through, waiting for a housing crash, waiting for the mortgage rate to come down to 2%, whatever, waiting for a foreclosure to happen. So by waiting, they're not getting this sixth benefit. So what are your thoughts on this?
I share with most of my consultation calls with new and seasoned investors an example that kind of goes over the hidden profits and benefits for real estate, which is funny. It's the hidden ones, but the experienced investors know and realize that's why we're doing it, for those quote unquote hidden profits, because the obvious profits, that's not what makes you wealthy. Right? The hidden profits are what make you wealthy. And I'll go broad level on this example, but I basically took a $300,000 property, 25% down, and set cash flow aside. I looked at two things. One is appreciation, and the other one is return on amortization or principal pay down. And there's only two assumptions I use. The rest is math. One is a 3% appreciation rate. Now, to realize how conservative that is, it's important to note from 1968 to 2009. So before this craziness, because everyone thinks this craziness that we've been experiencing, from 1968 to 2009, the national appreciation rate was 5.7%. Now, obviously, from 2009 till today, a lot of magic has happened, right? It's probably much higher. But let's take the 1968 to 2009 stat, 5.6, 5.7% national appreciation rate. Let's cut that in half. Let's take 3%, right? That's what I did. 3% appreciation rate. And for the principal pay down, I took a 7% interest rate, right? And as most of us know, you barely pay down any principal initially when you take a 30-year fix, especially at a 7% rate, right? So once again, I'm sure we can all agree 3% appreciation is very conservative, half of national, and then 7% of rate is essentially where the market is right now. And what was interesting is at the end of year 5, the appreciation based on just 3% a year, you make back about $38,000 of the $75,000 down payment on this $300,000 property, right? So it's like 58% at the end of year 5 that you've made back on appreciation on that property. Once again, based on half of the national appreciation rate. What was also interesting is by the end of year 5, little amount, because the loans are stacked with interest at the beginning, but you pay down $17,000 in principal pay down just by making your normal payment. So at the end of year 5, the amount that you've made back on this property is like 80% of your down payment between appreciation and your return on amortization. And what's magical about that is compounding, right? Year 1, the property's worth $300, it goes up 3%, it's worth $309. The next year goes up 3%, on the 309 goes up 3%, right? So everything keeps compounding and compounding. And the same thing with the interest pay down. As you make more payments, you pay more and more principal down. So, what's amazing is at the end of year 10, you've made back your money at least one time over, if not almost two times, 1.5 times over between appreciation and principal pay down. And it's so important to note that that is why we're doing this. That is why we're investing in real estate. And anyone tells you, oh, you can't make cash flow right now, they don't know what they're talking about because, okay, let's say you could make a 7% cash on cash return, which was the rule we all looked for prior to the last 3 years. Okay, 7% cash on cash return on a $250,000 property. It's $150 a month. $150. That's it. What are you going to do with that? Is that why you're buying real estate? So you can get an extra $150 a month? No, you're buying it for the long-term effects, for that iceberg, for that 90% of the iceberg that's under the water. That's why you're buying the real estate. And it's math, right? That example I gave you that I ran with the amortization and the principal paid on appreciation. All that is math, right? Those aren't full numbers. And I base it off half the appreciation rate nationally. I base it off a 7% interest rate. And it's such a powerful example. And I think it takes people off. Look, cash flow is a great way to evaluate one investment versus another. Now, am I saying in a Seewing saying go and buy a property at negative? No, we're not saying that. But we're saying to evaluate one investment versus another. And if you set a target in your head of, I know, a 7% cash on cash return, that's your guiding principle. Guess what? That's going to guide you to a $100,000 property in Michigan, right? No offense against Michigan. It's a good market. There's a certain type of asset it's going to guide you to. And the problem is most people think they're going to get a blue chip experience buying real estate, buying a penny stock. It's not going to happen, right? You need to be realistic on what you're buying, but you also need to be realistic on the long term. And if you realize that, hey, I'm buying this investment for the long term because that's where I'm going to make the money, right? Then you're probably going to buy a better quality asset that's going to last longer, okay? And don't get me wrong, look, those properties I bought, and I know you wanted a short answer, but you know how it goes with me. But those properties I bought at a 7% return 7 or 8 years ago that were rented at $1,350 a month, I was making 7%, $150, $180 a month. Guess what's happened in the last 8 years? The same property is now rented at $1,850 a month. So now my cash flow is not $150, it's $650. And my ROI is not 7%, it's 35%, right? It's huge. And take into account, based on the example I gave here, I'm on year 8. So I've made my down payment, I've made principal appreciation, I've done that 2x. And now I'm making real money on cash flow, right? $600 a month. You got 10 properties, that's $6,000 a month. You got 20, it's $12,000 a month. And as far as I'm concerned, 8 years into my journey on each of these properties, I'm just getting started. I bought them brand new. I'm going to have them for 30 years, 50 years. That example you had up there, going to pull it back up, very powerful. And the difference between the seasoned investors and new investors is new investors are so focused on this obvious profit that they're blind to what's beneath the surface, right? And as glorious as that iceberg looks in front of you, know that 90% of it's under the water. It's way bigger, actually. And that's really how real estate is. Even in this high rate environment, even in this market where we've seen tons of appreciation. Okay, let's factor in conservative appreciation. Let's factor in that high rate. What does this really look like in the next 5 or 10 years? And I think you'll find it looks fantastic, right? There's not other investments that can do what real estate can do. Just the main reason is you're appreciating in the growth of that $300,000 asset with only putting $60,000, $70,000 down, right? And at 3% equity, 3% appreciation, that's 3% on that $300,000 property. It's not 3% on what you put down. That's where the power is, and that's where the magic is in real estate.
Well, absolutely, Richard, 100% correct. And let me provide my own perspective. Now, over time, people have to commit to at least a 10-year journey, and it's not a quick, get rich quick scheme. But in the first few years, there's a lot of challenges, right? People need to commit to it. The first few years, because of this relatively low cash flow, you might be too impatient or whatever. But when you're just going to have it in there, maintenance is going to happen, vacancy is going to happen. You're just going to have to ride out the storm from a positive attitude. Now, you're going to see some real profit 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th year down the road, not immediate. So you have to be very patient and committed to the goal. And when you rent over time, we're gonna increase in alignment with inflation and also appreciation, as you and I discussed. It's just appreciation is a bonus, it's the icing on a cake over time. And tax benefit, we're not gonna get into that, but you can do regular depreciation, you can do a cost segregation in a bonus and a depreciation. You can become a real estate professional. For those people that qualify, the tax deductions are, and it's absolutely amazing. It's under the hidden iceberg, as we discussed. And leverage is something you and I, especially you are in a mortgage loan business, you understand the power of leverage, putting 20 to 25% down payment for investor, which you can't compare to the stock market. The stock market investment versus real estate is not even an apple to apple comparison. I did a video on that. It's an apple to orange comparison. Real estate is much, much better. And principal pay down, again, hidden profit, most people do not see. The renter, our renter didn't make us rich. Our renter is paying off not only the mortgage, the renter on a monthly basis. And your tenant is gonna pay down the taxes, insurance, property management fee, and vacancies and maintenance and all that, and inflation-induced debt destruction per Jason Hartman, a well-known investment loan advisor in Florida. She coined this term. It's just 30 fixed rate. It's amazing, right? Everything increasing value and the destruction of the debt. The 30-year fixed rate mortgage is gonna get paid out. When the mortgage get paid out in the next 5 to 10 to 15 years, your internal rate of return, your loan to value increases. You can get more equity, and eventually your mortgage is being paid for. Then the other exit strategy, Richard, is that at some point in time, you're going to have your property have a 5 7 years away, depending on the appreciation potential of your house. If your loan to value is like around 70% loan to value, you could potentially cash out refinance, tax-free loan against the equity of your income property and buy more property using the cash out refinance tax-free. And then now share one little bit about the math associated with cash out refinance. When you do a cash out refinance for 50 to 100 grand, you are redoing the loan on the existing property. So your payments can be higher. And so your cash flow is not going to be as high because you took the money out. But assuming you still will get cash flow on the existing property, but you're leveraging your equity of each of your income property to buy more property. That's how you scale your portfolio. So tell me quickly the nuts and bolts of doing cash out refinance. In fact, you might want to do the number, like if it is like a 50,000 cash out refinance at whatever rate, at 6% rate, whatever, then your mortgage payment goes up again on that income property. So what kind of math do you have to understand as an investor to justify cash out refinance and still maintain at least a break even or slight positive cash flow on that property, which you took the equity out to buy more property? Tell me.
Yeah, that's a tough one, obviously, in this market, because, excuse me, most of us had very low rate first mortgages, whether it's on a rental or on a primary home. And as you can imagine, equity loans in this market, equity lines, a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want to touch my first. What's an equity line? If first mortgages are 7%, what do you think equity lines and seconds are? They're close to 10%, right? Now, it begs the question, right? Firstly, does it make sense to redeploy equity from one of your properties to a new home? First things first is you want to try to analyze, of course, what that additional debt is going to cost, right? So $100,000 based on today's rates probably puts you in the mid 500s, maybe $600 a month for additional cost. Now, the question then becomes is, hey, are you going to be able to find a replacement property that will actually generate enough cash flow to cover itself plus the debt that you took out for the down payment? And look, at the end of the day, it is going to be very difficult to have somebody make a crazy profit that's going to cover both and still have some money left over. And it's probably going to take some work to find a property that's going to generate enough positive cash flow to cover itself and service the debt that you took out for the down payment. But it is very possible. And the way I look at it is, look, if you can take a property that has substantial equity and take some cash out of it and buy another property, and even if your cash flow position is back to the same, to zero, you refinance, it costs you an extra $400 a month, and then you buy a rental that makes you $400 a month, right? So you're back to even. but you've diversified the equity from one property into a second or a third property. And now you're participating in the growth of all of these properties versus just the one. So as you can imagine, as we discussed in that prior example, that's where the wealth building is really built, right? Participating in the growth and the tax benefits of each property versus the cash flow. So if you go from take one and create it into two, even at the same cash flow position, as you can imagine, that is going to be a wealth builder. And I get asked it a lot, and I have a lot of clients modeling these scenarios and saying, hey, our best case scenario is break even on cash flow, meaning it's going to generate enough cash flow to pay the debt, and that's it. We're not really generating any additional cash flow. I revert back to that example. I'm like, that's great. So you're not going to lose any other, you're not bringing any more money out of pocket, and you're able to buy a whole nother property and experience the below ground glacier effects of it, all the hidden things. And in turn, being able to, even at break even, after 5 years, you made back 60% of your down payment, you made back 15% return on amortization. That's a huge win. It is going to take work, once again, to find properties that will cover the debt plus cover themselves, but they are out there. And as rates move down, I think we'll see a lot more people taking advantage of redeploying equity via cash out. But I think it's a good strategy as long as the numbers make sense. I'd lose $50 a month to do something like that, even if I was negative 50 on overall cash flow. But I know, hey, I'm paying down 150 a month in principal, and it's appreciating, and all the tax benefits. I would still do that personally. Once again, talking about losing pennies, we don't recommend or advise you buy a loser property that you're losing $400 or $500 a month on, because even with the back end growth, it's going to be hard to surmount. And also, you need to think about exit strategies and put yourself in a good position for financial turmoil. You don't want this real estate investment that you bought to be a liability at the end of the day. So invest wisely.
Absolutely. Another exit strategy over time, again, it takes a 10 to 15-year journey or more. So it's not a short-term deal. Another is a 1031 tax-deferred exchange, right? And once you're able to do that, you don't have to pay capital gains as long as you buy a replacement property, income property of equal or greater value, and or buy a multi-unit instead of single-family home existing, so you can scale your portfolio with multiple income streams. Another tax deferral strategy below the hidden profit that you and I have been discussing. Once you set with your portfolio, everybody has different goals. Some people want to buy 2 or 3 property and that's it with them. That's fine. Some people want to buy 10 properties over time in the next 2 years. Some people want to buy 20, 30 properties like you have, and a number of my investors have also. So everybody has different goals, but at the end of the day, once you achieve your definition of financial freedom, you have all those income property generating cash flow. Those are the passive income you can live at retirement. And then if you take it even further, another tax strategy that a lot of people don't talk about is generation transfer. Once you enjoy your life, whatever your life expectancy investor has, enjoy the cash flow income, enjoy the retirement that they have, enjoy travel, and enjoy the financial freedom. So once their life expires, they're doing some estate planning for the beneficiaries, and the kids then inherit the property at the date of death. All the great high appreciation property over time, you get a step up in basis, meaning at the time of death, the fair market value of all the property get a step up in basis, whereby the beneficiaries are not paying any taxes on the inheritance of this amazing real estate portfolio. Just to show you, real estate has been, always will be an amazing investment. As we discussed, we went through the journey, start with one income property at a time, have a safety net, have cash reserve to incorporate any kind of emergencies, maintenance issues, vacancies, always have a good amount of cash reserves. You don't get over leveraged, do not get over your head, and do asset protection as well. And just work with a team of financial professionals and in your corner and buy in the right market, buy in the cash flow market, which is not easy. Before I let you go, what's your quick recap for people out there who are still sitting on the sidelines and are fearful and are overwhelmed by the doom and glooms, the sky is falling, all the crash bros out there just destroying people's financial dream by scaring them from not doing anything? What is your final thought?
If you're sitting on the fence, we're going to buy the properties. This is becoming a landlord nation. I don't agree with it, but it's happening. And I know what side of the fence I want to be on. I want to be the one building wealth and owning property. If you're still on the fence after seeing that the feds have tried to crush and bring real estate down, they've tripled the payment on a house in the last 3 years. And guess what? Real estate's still robust. It's still strong. It's not crashed. Why? Fundamentals, supply and demand. There's a major supply and demand issue. And we've said that 50 times. And I still have people like, I'm going to wait for rates to come down. And I'm like, yeah, but you were the guy who was waiting for prices to come down. Now it's the next flavor is waiting for rates to come down. And then rates are going to come down, prices are going to go back up. Then you're going to wait for prices to come down. Guess what? It's not happening, right? You're stuck in analysis paralysis. You're going to stay stuck in analysis paralysis. If you've been interested in buying real estate the last 10 years and today, after everything that's happened, you still haven't bought anything, you're doomed. Give up. Or don't. Let this be your last wake-up call and take some action. Real estate wealth is not built through cash flow. It really isn't. The longer you own the real estate, cash flow will come because of inflation. But look, at the end of the day, the more of us that listen to this message, the more competition you and I are going to have in buying properties. That's what we want. We're in this business. It's disappointing at this point if people are still on the fence. And if they've been on the fence for 5 or 10 years and you still haven't gotten off the fence, I don't know what to tell you. Nothing's going to change except you actually taking action. And I bet you kick yourself in the butt for not buying something 3 years ago and kick yourself in the butt for not buying something 3 years before that. And guess what? You're going to kick yourself in the butt 3 years from now if you don't buy something now as well, because the fundamentals are as strong as they can be. Forget about advanced economics. You don't need to be a wizard. Supply and demand. If I have 6 lollipops and there's 30 people in line trying to buy a lollipop, and the manufacturing of lollipops is only going to support me having 3 in my hand versus the 30 people trying to buy it for the next 10 years. Guess what? I'm going to buy a lot of lollipops because there's not enough lollipops being made, and there's a lot of people that want them. And that's housing right now. People are living longer. Look at the common sense aspect of real estate. Get away from the market and the crash and rates. And when's a good time? Common sense, right? People are living longer. There's more people being born. There's not enough houses being built to even get us on track in the next 10 years. Look at the black and white that's in front of you and invest wisely. And when you're ready to do that and get off the fence, Seewing's here and I'm here, and we'll take you on that journey.
Exactly. Without said, nothing more to add to that. Your next calling is a motivational speaker, Richard. So you're doing well as it is right now in your life. Thank you so much. Again, very inspiring, very encouraging, very motivational. And if this doesn't get anybody off the fence, I don't know what will. Anyway, thank you so much, Richard. I'll see you next time, everyone. Thanks for watching. This is Seewing Yee. Have a nice day. See you in the next video. Bye-bye.